Like what you see here? Then be sure to subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8, a channel devoted to the history of college football. New videos drop twice a week. Click the card in the upper right corner or the link in the description to subscribe now. And now, on with our feature presentation.
This player right here is Reggie Smith, and all things considered, he had quite the impressive career in Major League Baseball. After making his debut at the end of the 1966 season, he turned it into a Major League career lasting all the way until 1982, playing just under 2,000 games and making over 8,000 plate appearances for the Boston Red Sox, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the San Francisco Giants. Along the way, he made it to the MLB All-Star Games 7 times, with 2 of those appearances coming with the team he'd been watching this whole time, the Boston Red Sox. He had over 2,000 hits. He won a Gold Glove in 1968 as the team's center fielder. He had 2 seasons where he led the American League in doubles, had a 1977 season with the Dodgers, where he led the National League in on-base percentage, had quite a few seasons where he finished relatively high in the MVP voting, and in 1981, even won a World Series with the Dodgers, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Yet, what might be a bit surprising about Smith's career is that not once did he ever win the batting title. Despite 7 seasons with an average above 300, despite hitting .287 over his career, despite over 2,000 career hits, and despite having quite a few seasons, especially in Boston, where he was inside the top 10 in batting average, he never ended the season as the league leader. He came close quite a few times, especially in 1969, when his .309 average ranked second, only behind Hall of Famer Rod Carew. But he was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But in 1970, he had his best shot, and his own team sabotaged him, straining and fracturing the relationship between he and the organization. The thing that stopped Reggie Smith from winning a batting title might have been the team he was playing for, thanks to a bizarre strategy that did not work well at all, and only worked to dehumanize him. Because this is the story behind the bizarre controversy and drama between Reggie Smith and the 1970 Boston Red Sox. Before I talk about the actual move in question that left Smith up in arms, we need some context to understand just how Smith was playing to start off the 1970 season. Again, in 1969, Smith was an all-star who finished second in the AL in batting average. Tough to top that production the following year, right? Well, not quite. Because in 1970, as crazy as it was to believe, Smith started off the year even better than he started off his 1969 campaign. Through the start of September, he was hitting an astonishingly high .322, and had a month-long stretch at one point from the middle of April to the middle of May, where he was hitting .388. By the start of September, not only was he getting on base roughly 39% of the time, and not only was he one of the top hitters on the Red Sox, even though they had no shot at the playoffs by being 17 games back of the unstoppable Baltimore Orioles on Labor Day weekend, but he was one of the best hitters in the entire American League. Boston was the best hitting team in the AL. They led the league with 1,450 hits, and led the league with a .262 team-wide average. And Smith, as you can clearly tell, played a huge part in that. On September 3rd, Smith was hitting .322, putting him not just right in the thick of things for the AL batting title, but at the front of the pack. Among the competition, you had California Angels player Alex Johnson hitting .320, Boston Red Sox player Carl Yastrzemski hitting .319, and Minnesota Twins player Tony Oliva hitting .311, just to name a few. Obviously, a lot can change over the final month of the season, but it seemed like Smith was at the front of the pack to become the 3rd Red Sox winner in the last 4 years, alongside Yastrzemski in 1967 and 1968 to win the batting title. And while there were obviously many things that you had to give Smith a ton of credit for, one of them, without a doubt, was his toughness. There were plenty of times where he could have taken some time off due to getting injured and whatnot, and he didn't. On August 17th, he collided at home plate in a game against the Chicago White Sox, bruising his shin in the process. He stayed in the game. Then, despite re-aggravating the injury later in the game after trying to steal second base in the fourth inning, he not only played the following day, but in an 8-4 win over the White Sox to take the series, went 3 for 5. He was battling a knee injury and a sore throwing arm throughout the season, but that didn't stop him one bit. In Boston's first 136 games of the season, he played in 130 of them, appearing 96% of the time, including 78 straight starts from the start of June until the end of August. Very quickly, Smith was becoming one of the best hitters in the American League, and selling his approach that made him so successful throughout the 1970 season, I'm going up the middle for average, and just letting the home runs come. It's a proven fact that you'll hit more homers going for hits than going for distance. That's what I'm doing. However, the good times cannot last forever, because even though Reggie Smith was a great ball player who was playing out of this world, at the end of the day, just like all of us, he is human, and just like all of us, he'll have a tendency to get sick and fall ill from time to time. And sure enough, on Saturday, September 5th, when the Red Sox played the Orioles, Smith was not in the lineup because he was battling a pretty bad virus. Prior to the game, Smith made a phone call to Fenway Park and trainer Buddy LaRue and said that he wasn't going to be able to make it or play because he was dealing with the virus. Joe LaHood would be playing in the outfield, not Reggie Smith. Smith would miss the September 6th game against the Orioles, both games of a doubleheader on September 7th against the Cleveland Indians, a game against the Indians on September 8th, a game on September 9th against the Detroit Tigers, and a game on September 10th against the Tigers. This virus absolutely destroyed him, made him feel weak, and made him unable to get out of bed. And this viral bug wasn't just restricted to Smith. A few days after Smith phoned out sick, his teammate, George Scott, had to leave a game early due to coming down with the virus. So you would think that the Red Sox would be awfully accommodating to Smith, right? The season's over in terms of your chances at fighting for the pennant, since the Orioles have the division on lockdown. You've got a player who feels awfully sick and who is weak in just about every way, and is dealing with a virus that has impacted other members of the team. And yet, that's where you'd be wrong. Because for some crazy reason, the Red Sox thought that he was faking this virus, despite all the evidence presented about his toughness and his love of the game, and the evidence about other teammates getting sick. At the very least, he was faking the severity of it. They thought that he was trying to defend his batting title and keep his average up by not playing, and that he really should be back to work by now. Seriously, the Red Sox essentially told Smith, "Mind over matter. You're playing for us now. Time to shake off this virus." As trainer Buddy LaRue said, he was told to rejoin the club. "We know he's going to feel bad for a day or two, but he doesn't have a temperature and should come around soon." Now, just the idea behind this, considering all the evidence, seems absurd. Even Carl Yastrzemski, who was competing with Smith for that batting title, said that this was ridiculous, saying on Smith, "There's no reason why I shouldn't think Reggie wasn't sick when he didn't play. If he says he was too ill to play, I'm going to believe him." And of course, Smith denied these allegations, even if management was skeptical for some reason, saying, "I was so tired. I couldn't do anything. My hands were weak. I still don't feel too good." However, none of this mattered to the Red Sox. They were going to let a player who was feeling insanely weak and was not feeling good whatsoever due to the virus play in these games, even though he was still recovering. And even though baseball is an insanely difficult sport to play as it is, let alone while recovering from a virus. The Red Sox were essentially treating Smith as a robot, or thought that he was faking his illness or over-exaggerating it so that he either didn't have to play and do any work, or so that his batting average could stay put while everyone else around him had their average dip, thereby winning the batting title. But to say that Smith was furious about this, and the fact that no one outside of Yastrzemski seemed to take his side publicly, would be an understatement. When Smith returned to the team, reports indicated that he was very secluded, didn't talk to others, and seemed quiet, which is funny, seeing as the last thing anyone should be doing when dealing with a virus is mingling in close proximity with others. So maybe that's why. Just a hunch. And a few years later, when Smith left the Red Sox, he indicated that this moment was the turning point, saying that everything changed when I finally realized that the Red Sox considered me a machine and not a man. And the decision by the Red Sox to play Smith against his wishes and to play him while he was still feeling incredibly weak and battling sickness did not pay off at all. Because not only did the relationship between the two sides get strained, but that was the exact moment that Smith lost the batting title. In his first game back, which was on September 11th against the Baltimore Orioles, in a 3-2 loss, he went 0 for 6. Over his first 4 games back, Smith went 0 for 16, and his average dipped from .322 just one day before the virus to .303. Don't get me wrong, finishing with an average above 300 is still incredible, but this might be the most anticlimactic way to do it, considering that when he returned until the end of the season, he hit just .161, got on base less than 20% of the time, and had no home runs with just 1 extra base hit. It was a far cry from what he used to be, because shocker, he was sick and was still trying to recover. You try getting out of bed when you've got a virus and standing with a bat in your hands trying to swing at 95-mile-per-hour fastballs and run the base paths. It's not easy. Heck, it's not easy when you're healthy, let alone when you feel like you're about to die. And the Red Sox just decided to treat him like a machine who can't get sick, either because they desperately needed him in a non-pennant race because they thought he was faking it for some reason, or a combination of both. Just insane when you think about it like that. The Reggie Smith tenure in Boston was an interesting one to say the least. As while he was a great player, there was always that tension between he and the organization and the fans, with the latter groups thinking that Smith wasn't always trying or giving it his all, and wasn't living up to his potential. And perhaps nothing exhibited that drama more than the virus that changed everything during the 1970 season. So as a word of advice, if a player is complaining that he is sick and is feeling ill, and there is literally no evidence to suggest that he is faking this, seeing as another player on the team got sick from the same virus, and seeing as he's played through immense pain before, maybe you shouldn't just assume the worst in him and assume that he's faking. It's a crazy concept, but maybe, just maybe, he's telling the truth. Because in 1970, Smith's quest at a batting title got destroyed by the Red Sox organization and management and trainers, who essentially told Smith to put a sock in it. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.